Hey everybody, it's Galmanex and welcome back to some more Kaldheim Limited on Arena. Today we have another Premier Draft of the format, and we've got a pretty sweet opening pack. I think there are two cards here in firm competition for first pick, in my opinion. We've got Varragoth Bloodsky Sire, which is a rare, so you get to play with it less often. It has a pretty powerful effect. 3 mana for a 2/3 Death Touch. When you boast it, search for any card in your library, put it on top. So you can set up your draws really well if you can get in with this multiple times. I just feel like usually it only gets to attack once, in which case it's solid but not incredible. And then we have a really good uncommon in Dwarven Hammer. This is 5 mana for a 5/1 trample, and then when it dies, it turns into the equipment that you can just put on all your other stuff later. You can also cast this for just 3 if you are stuck on mana. I am going to take Dwarven Hammer over the Varragoth there because they work in very different ways. The rare there is like one individual card that can die very easily, whereas the Dwarven Hammer turns all of your other little puny cards into things that can trade up into other stuff. So I really like Dwarven Hammer in the aggressive red decks, whereas the Varragoth, or however you say that, is definitely less exciting to me. We've got some really solid stuff here. Aegar the Freezing Flame is great in a Giants deck. All of your Giants have enough power to be able to do excess damage to creatures, and all of the red removal in the set are burn spells that usually do more than enough damage, like Demon Bolt dealing 4, Squash dealing 6. So I think Aegar is very, very solid, and we will often be able to draw extra cards off of this. It also does pair nicely, not super nicely with Dwarven Hammer, but they match colors, of course, so we can play both of those in the same deck. Battershield Warrior might lend itself more to a really aggressive deck with a lot of little tokens, like Dwarven Hammer would enjoy, but I think Aegar is enough better than the Battleshield Warrior that I will just roll with Aegar there. And some more really solid stuff. If we had taken the Battleshield Warrior, this might be a time to try to pick up maybe an Usher of the Fallen, just a good little aggressive creature. But I think I'm going to take another red card out of this pack. We've got Frostbite and Squash, and I'm actually leaning a little bit towards Squash because I have an Aegar, so if I do get to end up in Blue-Red Giants, Squash will be better. Frostbite, it is really good because it is efficient, so it is very good against aggressive decks, but there are some times where you're going to be running it up against scary, like multicolor bomb creatures like Sfella or something that's a 2/4 that you just can't kill it with Frostbite. That being said, there will also be times where I just don't have a giant on the field and 5 mana is just a ton to spend on removal. So I think Frostbite is usually better, but with Aegar here, if we can get into Blue-Red Giants, Squash should be a pretty fantastic removal spell for us. And now we see a Bergstrider, which is very solid for that strategy. 5 mana for a 4/4. If you happen to spend snow mana on it, you do get to tap something down and leave it tapped for a turn. If you don't spend snow mana, you still get to tap a creature down, so you get to basically nullify one of their blockers. So I'm going to take Bergstrider here, and it's not particularly close. Neither of these red cards do a lot. Shackles of Treachery only really working good with Sacrifice Outlets, and there's just not a lot of those in the set. And Smashing Success is basically unplayable. And the other blue card is just not a Blue-Red Giants card. Although it is okay in the early game, you don't have a lot of 2 mana cards you're really looking for in the Giants deck. So we have another Squash, which would be very solid. Or we have Frostpire Arcanist, which can be quite good if you manage to get multiples of your removal spells. So if we end up in a deck with like 3 Squash and 2 Demon Bolts or something like that, then Frostpire Arcanist will be very good, but it is limited, so you can always end up in a deck that just does not have duplicates. So this secondary effect on this, it grabs a second copy of an instant or sorcery in your graveyard, so you do really need to draft around this for it to be good. Otherwise, it's like a 4 mana 2/5 at best and a 5 mana 2/5 at worst. So I do think it's a pretty solid card. It's a fun build around. I think I will take it over the Squash. I'm pretty convinced we can get in on Blue-Red Giants here at this point. And now we're just taking like a Depart the Realms. If we want to hedge our bets here, I guess the best card in the whole pack would be something like either the Gates of Istfell or Struggle for Skemfar. We've got 2 solid red cards, 2 solid blue cards, and 1 blue-red. So Gates of Istfil would be like if we get pushed out of red, we move into blue-white. Struggle for Skemfar. If we get pushed out of one of these colors, we can move into green. That is kind of late for the green removal. Not actually sure here. Maybe we even just take the snow land just in case of that, but I don't think we're planning to really jump in on snow. But none of the snow lands have been getting taken so far, so that could be a choice. I am just going to run with Depart the Realm. That might be a bit bold, but we'll see how it pans out here. Here is a Frost Augur for a snow deck. If those snow lands keep coming around super late, of course there's no snow land in this pack, so somebody took one out of this. There's Mists of Litjara, which is just not a removal spell I'm interested in when my secondary color has good removal. Like if I'm in blue-red, I just don't want this because I can just have good red removal spells, because this doesn't actually functionally kill something a lot of the time in the late game. I think Stalwart Valkyrie might be the best card, but Tormentress Helm can go well into a really aggressive red deck. That being said, not really a Giants one because your creatures are already big enough. And I don't like the mob in a Giants deck either because you already have a bunch of just 5-mana Bergstrider type Giants that are a relevant creature type for you as well. So I just don't love the mob for that deck. And a Bergstrider this late is pretty fantastic. Just being able to tap something down and leave it tapped for another turn is such a powerful effect. And a 4/4 body is just huge in this format. So I'm just going to take another Bergstrider over a Craven Hulk, or a Snow-Covered Mountain even. And now we see Highland Forest might be okay. We've got double Bergstrider. We can just play it as a red Snowland. Sure, it comes into play tapped, but our other options out of this pack are just like a Firewalker. That's basically it. Again, don't love the Helm unless you're a deck with a lot of small creatures that you're making better with this. With a bunch of big creatures like Giants, it's just not what we're looking for. Although we could take it to hedge our bets on like a red-white deck, and ending up being open. I think I am going to take the Snowland here. We'll take the Highland Forest. To help our Bergstriders out, we'll play a tapped red Snowland. And now I'll just take Vault Robber, which is a solid 2-drop for a Giants deck. Just a 2-mana 1/3 blocker. It's a nice filler 2-drop for the early game, so we actually have blockers there. And this can even potentially help ramp into late Giants with the treasure tokens it could make. Definitely don't like Immersturm Raider anywhere near as much because we want our early creatures to just be good at blocking in a Giants deck because our late creatures are going to be massive. So I guess I'll take Cinderheart Giant, but this is not a card we can run a lot of copies of because it costs 7 mana. You just can't afford to have too many cards in your deck that cost a ton of mana. And now we're just going to get a bunch of late Wither Crowns, I guess. I'm not going to take off-color Snowlands because it's just not going to be worth running them. I guess I could take Run Amok, but probably not going to end up playing that just because our curve's going to be pretty high. Actually, I'm going to take Gates of Istfil over Shackles of Treachery. That just seems so late for that. And we're probably not using Duskwielder, but maybe we randomly become Rakdos Berserkers here. I don't know. What are we taking if we're just going blue-red Giants? We could just take Demon Bolt, I think. That is an incredibly solid card that there is no way is going to wheel. It's definitely going into our deck. Even if we somehow got pushed into like black-red Berserkers, we might even prefer Demon Bolt over the Bloodsky Massacre because you just have to pick up the removal when it appears. Because cards like Demon Bolt are just going to get drafted so highly. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to take Demon Bolt here. Just a premier cheap removal spell that can deal with most problems. And we get an on-color rare that is very solid. Squash is a little worse than Demon Bolt usually, but I guess for our strategy, plus the fact that we have Frostpyre Arcanist, we would want to take Squash highly. I don't know if we want to take it so highly that we take it over the 3-mana 3/3 haste with upside. Like, that's just such a solid stat line. Having 3 toughness on your 3-drop is pretty important, and having haste on it makes it keep bashing in. So this is actually, even without the boast ability, this is just like a lot better than the 3-mana 3/2 haste common, because that trades down into your opponent's 2/2s and 2/1s, of which there are a million at 2 mana. So I think the stat line is just so good, and the boast ability is fun and pretty powerful in like a Giants deck late game. We boast with this when we attack with it in a Bergstrider, and then this is a 5/3 when it's attacking. I think Arnie is just super solid in any red deck. It does hurt passing the Squash, but I want to play around with Arnie. I think the card is quite good. Another Squash or a Frostpire Arcanist. A Giant's Amulet as well. Really good stuff coming here. I think I'm going to take the other Squash now because I really want to make our first Frostpire Arcanist a very good card. I want this to be able to actually hit something relatively often to grab a second instant or sorcery from our deck, so I think I'm taking Squash here. There's even an argument for Snow-Covered Island because we do really want the snow mana with Bergstrider, and untapped on-color snowlands are very valuable for that. So yeah, I think like Squash, one of these blue giants, or the Snow-Covered Island here. I am going to take Squash, hoping to wheel any one of those other 3 cards I was mentioning. And this pack does not have anything for us, does it? I guess there's a Pilfering Hawk if we end up taking enough of these snowlands just for another 2-mana creature, because we only have 1 right now. Just get some more things on the field that can get out there, trade with something, or potentially just draw and discard throughout the game. It seems okay. I only have 2 3-mana creatures also. I just don't have a lot of creatures yet. We are pretty early in the draft. Could just take Alpine Meadow for the tapped red source. Don't want to take a second Cinderheart Giant just because we can't run that many big old 7-mana cards. We're probably only playing 1 of them. Because if we draw too many in the early game, we're just never casting them. Guess I'm taking that tapped snow source there. And here I'm pretty happy to take Behold the Multiverse, although I do think that Augury Raven is quite good as well. Just a 3/3 flyer. Even in like a Giants tribal deck, we don't need that much, that many Giants really, because most of our Giants tribal is just trying to get Squash to work. And then for like Agar, but Agar already combos well with just Demon Bolt and Squash, just spells that deal damage. So we don't actually need to be, you know, giants. We don't need to actually pick only giant creatures or anything like that. The tribal is not that strict in this format. We just do like to pick up the good giants when we see them because they have some synergies with our other cards. Avalanche Caller in here. I'm seeing tons of snow duels. So I think we can take Avalanche Caller here, and now we really prioritize Snowlands, because this is a very powerful effect. For 2 mana, turn one of your Snowlands into a 4/4 Hexproof and Haste. That is just going to bash in pretty fiercely, or just like trade with some of their creatures. Either way is super fine, because you're creating that 4/4 basically out of nothing, just out of thin air. So I think Avalanche Caller is an incredibly powerful card. It's definitely worth taking out of that pack. Do not like this pack anywhere near as much. There's the Tormentor's Helm for the early creatures to get better. Immersturm Raider is just not good in this deck, just a 1 toughness creature. We're not aggressive enough for that. Brian Barrow Intruder, also just not that interested. Port of Carfell needs double black. I don't think we're playing any of this, but I guess I'll take a Tormentor's Helm. And ooh, Bind the Monster or Glacial Floodplain. We have 2 Squash. We have a Demon Bolt. That's it right now, but that's 3 removal spells already, and we're hoping to get more instant sorcery damage dealing kinds of removal to combo with both Agar and Frostpire Arcanist. So I'm actually just going to pass Bind the Monster here to get another Snowland. Now that we have Avalanche Color, I do want to pick these up quite highly, and this is 1 relevant color. It is a tapped blue Snowland. And we actually have 2 separate white sources in our tapped lands now, so maybe the Gates of Istfell get more playable here. We can just splash them in off of our white duels. The problem is that it taps for colorless in our deck. It just taps for white, which doesn't do anything for us, but the rest of these cards aren't that exciting. I guess Raven Wings would be solid in a Giants deck. Turn your big old Giants into flyers. I'm very happy to get a Mistwalker here. It's just one of the cheapest Giants in the format since it is a changeling. It is a Giant, so you can play this turn 3 and then you have access to your Squashes turn 4, or your Frostpire Arcanist, anything like that. I think Mistwalker is just a great card, even when you don't have tribal stuff that cares about it. Its ability is quite good, and we did wheel the Frostpire Arcanist, so I'm very happy about taking the Squash over that, because that is exactly what we were trying to look for, because now we have the 2 Squashes so that these Arcanists might actually do something now and then, and we could just get a million Gates of Istfells. Nobody wants this card. I guess we could just be splashing white literally just for Gates of Istfell. Again, it is awkward with the fact that it's basically a colorless land in our deck in terms of what it taps for. But we'll see it. It could still be solid, could still be worth it. I don't love any of the blue or red cards in this pack, and we don't have a lot of foretell for Vega, but I could try to be just Jeskai now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 foretell cards potentially, but we really don't want Dwarven Reinforcements in this deck. It just doesn't make a lot of sense here. I'm literally just taking Vega, Firewalker, or Sulphurous Mire. I don't really love any of these options. But I think they're all pretty equal in how good they could be here. You know what? I'm going to take the Snowland. We've got that Avalanche color. Let's make it work. That being said, one of the best game enders in red in this format, the big old, if you foretold it, 5 mana 5/4 haste that buffs your whole field, or 6 mana 5/4 haste that buffs your whole field. I just love this card a ton. I am always happy to have it in my deck. That being said, we're taking it over a Shimmerdrift Veil, which would be very solid in this deck, helping fix our colors for the Gates of Istfell if we do end up playing those, or just fix our colors between blue and red, and being a snowland. Yeah, I think there's just no way this is going to wheel, though. Because if just one other person at the table's in red, they're just going to take Doomscar Titan. Even if you're like the early aggro Tormentor's Helm deck, you can have Doomscar Titan be the top end of your curve and you'll be happy. Another Avalanche Caller? I'm either taking another Avalanche Caller or I'm taking like Run Ashore. Because again, Smashing Success doesn't really do anything. And Brine Barrow Intruder is just such a small impact on the game generally. So I'm taking Avalanche Color or another Snow Duel. I guess I'm taking Avalanche Color. Now we're getting to the point where I probably have to cut the gates because I'm going to end up maybe running like off-color Snow Duels and just running so many tap lands in general. I think we take Snow-Covered Mountain out of here for Avalanche Collar. Our other options are Pilfering Hawk, Frostpeak Yeti, or Raven Wings. Some filler creatures or the wings to give our giants flying. Don't have a lot of creatures in here, do I? Just 12? But I also have the Dwarven Hammer, so that's basically 13. Not a ton of creatures, but we can be a slower deck with just bigger creatures. That's what giants will tend to do. I can have a playset of Gates of Istfell here, and I'm not even white-blue, and I'm not even drafting them that highly. I'm just getting past them with only like 4 cards left in the pack. And at this point, somebody else is clearly blue-red giants. Or there's just people in red and people in blue cutting our cards here. So that's kind of our only option out of this pack. This one hasn't been passed so late, but it's basically all we've got here. It's that or the Raven Wings or the Gold Vein Pick. I don't really just love equipment in a Giants deck in the first place, so I'm just going to take another Gates of Istfell. Might as well add it to my collection. Axguard Cavalry or Fearless Liberator. I think both these cards are pretty good. Axguard Cavalry might be better in a Giants deck just because we can give our big old Bird Striders haste the turn we play them. That being said, just literally any time that we can attack with this and boast it, it's gonna be giving us solid value. Yeah, this is kind of weird, but I think I'm actually gonna go with Fearless Liberator. Just because its effect is definitely more powerful, even if our deck doesn't work so perfectly with that effect. I want to just take the most powerful card there still. My curve is getting low enough that I might actually be running like Tormentor's Helm type cards. Or Run Amok even. Definitely not running an off-color Snowland though, I don't think. Just take another Tormentor's Helm. I think Tormentor's Helm and Run Amok are pretty even. They're pretty solid stuff. I guess if I took another Run Amok, it would be another card that could have comboed with our Frostpire Arcanist, so I should have taken that into consideration and probably just taken Run Amok. But either of those cards are pretty close to just being our first cuts. Here we are going to take the 4-mana Giant that could come into play with a +1/+1 counter and scry us 1. Just a solid card. Take the 3-mana 2/3, it's the only thing we're ever going to cast. And all the snow lands are gone at this point. Whoever's in snow wisened up, they gotta scoop up those lands super fast. They were going pretty late in like the first pack. I guess I take the big old giant, but I'm not very happy to run that because I've already got 3 big old giants now. Probably something I want to cut. Yeah, I guess a Frost Peak Yeti with the amount of snow we have. I've got 4 2-mana cards. And a 2-mana 1/3 doesn't really help with our aggressive stuff like Tormentor's Helm, so that's not even that exciting there. Wow, Marie to the Frost is going to be last pick here. That's kind of crazy. I guess I have 1 green duel. Yeah, we're not doing it off 1 green duel. All right, so we've got a blue-red kind of icy giants deck with a double avalanche color. So we need to cut 6 non-land cards, and then we need to get our mana situated. It's gonna be a strange one because I'll have to count like these are mountains, and then this is an island. So we'll have to double check our mana at the end here, especially if I end up wanting to play my playset of Gates of Istfell. That seems like probably not worth it to splash. Just because, I mean, that's just such a brutal splash, because it's like we're splashing an off-color card and making our mana base actively a lot worse by doing it, by throwing in 4 lands that tap for colorless in our deck. I do think it's hilarious, though. No respect for Gates of Istfell. I think this is pretty good. The Immerstrom Skullcairns were also going incredibly late, but I think this is much weaker than the Gates of Istfell, just because since this is a sorcery speed effect and you're only making your opponent discard 1 card, it's really easy for your opponent to play around this if you get this anywhere near the late game. So you have to use this ability like relatively early, and if you're using it relatively early, you're doing that instead of actually just playing other stuff out of your hand, which is not really what you want in Rakdos because you're usually such an aggressive sort of deck. So this is one of the weaker ones, but I think Gates of Istfell is super solid. 6 cuts. So I could just like cut out all the equipment type stuff, because that works just so well in an early aggression kind of deck, and I don't think we're really that. Really don't love Dwarven Reinforcements or Scorn Effigy either, but we might just want more creatures. We have 17 now. Let me sort my creatures out and let's look at our actual creature curve. Dwarven Hammer's a 5-mana creature. Reinforcements are a couple creatures. Reinforcements are probably better than Scorn Effigy generally, but we might prefer just the higher toughness blocker here. I don't think I want Undersea Invader. Probably not Run Ashore. Run Ashore has been like okay in the late game, but it just costs so much mana, I feel. Still never cast this card. I've put it in my deck a couple times, but I've never drawn it when it was remotely castable. We're definitely keeping all our snowlands for the double avalanche color on 2. Depart the Realm. Let's just set aside all our like kind of mediocre stuff. Put all our snowlands in one pile for a sec. Cinderheart Giant's pretty mediocre also, but I think it's cooler than the Undersea Invader, so I'd rather run it. It's got like a much bigger impact on the board when you hit it, but it's 7 mana, which is 1 million. 6 mana is kind of a lot of mana too, though. I don't think I have enough like expensive instants to really care about flashing an Undersea Invader out, because of the fact that this comes into play tapped, so you can't even ambush something when you flash it out. I think I'm going to cut an Invader, but then I'm cutting 1 more card, probably one of these 2 random blue bounce spells. I love how Depart the Realm does half of what Run Ashore does, but it does it for 1/3 of the mana. But I guess it would be a huge card advantage swing if Run Ashore only cost 4. I guess just putting something back in somebody's hand is much weaker than putting it back on top of their deck, because you make them lose one of their draw steps. That's true. This is Depart the Realm and Griptide all in one card on Run Ashore, and Griptide is a 4 mana instant that throws something on top of its owner's library. And that card was solid. I still feel that just this card costs so much mana. I don't know. I think I'm going to cut Run Ashore. And then here we have our blue-red Giants deck. Not a lot of removal, just double Squash and a Demon Bolt. I think we didn't pass up on too many removal spells. Did pass up on a Frostbite, but I don't remember what I took over it. And I did pass up on a bind the thingy, the 1 mana blue enchantment removal spell. So I don't like the amount of removal we had here. I think if this Dwarven Reinforcements were a second Demon Bolt, I'd think that this deck looks pretty solid, but it's definitely got some plans, some powerful cards. We could Avalanche Color into a bunch of 4/4s and slap our opponent, or we could just do the blue-red Giants thing, play in an Agar, trying to shoot some creatures or block some creatures with big old giants in the late game, draw cards off of that. So our Izzet Icy Giants deck is assembled. We just need to get our mana in order. 12 blue sources and 11 red sources. Symbols, not sources. I always get that mixed up. So 12 blue, 11 red. That's almost an even split. And we're going to play a 17 lander here. Right now we have 8 blue sources and 9 red sources. I have 1 more blue than red. In terms of our symbols, our early symbols are pretty much even. We've got 2 red cards at 2 mana, 2 blue cards at 2 mana. Don't really count the instants and sorceries because we can just cast those later. We've got even blue and red at 3 mana, and then we've just got more blue later. I think I want to cut 1 mountain, put in 1 island. We'll go 9 blue sources and 8 red sources instead of the way they have it right now, which is the other way around. All right. Let's see if we can't get some good games with the Icy Giants. I should start naming my decks so that they're all unique. All right, we're on the play with Agar into double Squash. Don't mind if I do. If our opponent has a removal spell for Agar, all of our fun times will not roll. But if they don't have removal for Agar, we just start squashing all of their plays, drawing cards every time we do it. Just get 2-for-1s galore, and we've even drawn into a 2-drop, so we curve out a little bit here as well. I am liking this hand. Our opponent is on green with a snow-covered forest and a regular forest into Sculptor of Winter. Would like to squash that as soon as possible because they do have the snow-covered forest to untap with its ability. So they have 3 mana already. If they play their land for turn, they have 4 mana on turn 3 here. Looks like they will be tapping it, and maybe playing a 4-drop on turn 3. Stalwart Valkyrie. I think that I just want to squash that. I could also attack with Agar and offer the trade. And then I can just squash the Sculptor of Winter. And then I still draw 2 cards there. Because I'd be dealing excess damage to Valkyrie by doing 3 with Agar. And then excess to the Sculptor by squashing it. I could also just squash both their creatures. I am actually considering squashing the Sculptor of Winter. Just to keep them off of playing like a 5-mana card next turn. I think I am definitely squashing the Valkyrie, so I can just send in for 4 here. I think I would rather hold on to the squash and just squash whatever they play. Ooh, a swamp from our opponent, showing off that they are a 3-color deck. They have a forest, a plains, a swamp, and a snow-covered forest out. Dropping a Blood Sky Berserker. Alright, so they're going to double spell here. 2-drop into 2-drop, or 2-drop into 3-drop, we'll see. They've got access to either thanks to the Sculptor of Winter. They are going to go for a 3-mana card here. So we could have like killed the Sculptor of Winter in response to them casting Blood Sky Berserker if we were like really certain that they were playing a 3-mana card afterwards. But that just seems so bold. It's probably just really not worth it. I'm going to go ahead and squash the Berserker now. Draw a card there. Then when I attack in here, if they trade with Agar, I draw another card. And now I've got Arnie to swing in with as well, and Arnie will attack as a 4/3 haste, so maybe they just trade there. Do I want to play Dwarven Hammer, though? I could spend the 5 and play the Hammer, but then I don't get a haste attacker immediately coming out on this field. I think I want to just play Arnie, honestly. I don't know if that's even right, though. So I kind of want them to trade with Agar now that I'm out of burn spells. I've got one more burn spell in my deck. I just have a Demon Bolt. And we're not going to play another Giant till Cinderheart Giant. So Agar's kind of outlived its usefulness. And if I trade there instead of trading with Broken Bow, I am drawing a card. And putting a 5/1 trample on the board, like it's going to trade with whatever they block with and damage them. And then we get to suit this onto the Robber. Yeah, I don't actually know if this is correct. I will. Oh my god, they're just not going to trade. Well, you know, now I'm a little unhappy. I really wanted that trade. I guess they're trying to gain life off of the casting 2 spells a turn trigger of Doomscar Oracle here. Or they just didn't want me to be up a card in the exchange. So they just foretell a couple cards. With 1 green mana up, 2 if they untap the Sculptor. Or untap the land with the Sculptor. And they do that, so they've got 2 mana. Guardian Gladewalker it is, with 2 foretold cards. They don't have the mana available to cast either of them, so we don't have to worry too hard about that right now. So this does lead into a really big Arnie attacking them this turn. Because I get to boast with Arnie, and Arnie's now a 6/3 attacker. So, I mean, I think they trade Arnie with Doomscar Oracle. And probably trade my 5/1 with their 1/1. They would take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage. Yeah, I mean, I think I just do it. I could also just move my Hammer over to something else. But I kind of want them to just trade with the 2/1 here. And I want to leave up the boast mana. I can't move my Hammer and still boast. And if they don't block Arnie here, they just take 1,000,000. But I'm pretty sure they're just going to trade for Arnie with their Doomscar Oracle. Well, take 1,000,000 it is. Be 6 plus 4, 10. That's 13, I think. I think that's actually just lethal. All right. Take 1,000,000 they chose. And their life total was exactly 1,000,000, so we'll get there. That is definitely one of those reasons that you wait to boast until after declare blocks. I guess I technically could have boasted immediately, but then they probably would have done the math. So that was a little bit of a weird ending there, but I think we were in a very good position either way. We just had some very powerful cards against our opponent, drew a lot of cards off of Agar, and then we got that Dwarven Hammer on the field. Plus an Arnie to attack as a 6/3 haste. Absolutely absurd stuff out of our deck there. Ooh, and now we get to try to do other absurd things on the other facet of our deck, the snow portion with Avalanche Caller. So I will keep this. Turn 1, obviously, we will play the tapped land because we don't have a 1-mana card. And I could even just go for a Dwarven Hammer game here, because I could just go for Dwarven Reinforcements and then play the Hammer later. Well, play the island so I can play whatever I want. If I play Avalanche Caller right now, am I just attacking them with a 4/4 next turn? If I do that, I'm not playing anything else next turn. Yeah, I mean, they start with a tapped Snowland, so they might be a slow snow deck, and I could just try to chip away as much damage as I can as quickly as possible here. But if I'm going for more value plays over the course of this game, I think we want to just dump out as many Dwarf Berserkers as we can so that Dwarven Hammer gets much better later. They do just drop a 2/2 there, so they're on Sultai, green, blue, and black. Not necessarily playing both of the colors on their Snowland, just like we're not playing white here, but probably are. Do I want to play a 2/3 or just attack with a 4/4? I mean, they're tapped out here. I think I want to just slap them, because I've got relevant blockers against a 2/2. Just send in 4. Just spent a turn to deal 4. Another swamp and an Icehide Troll comes out. So they're definitely green and black, we know that. But they also have an Icehide Troll in their deck, so they definitely need the snow mana enough that they would play off-color duels. If I attack with a 4/4, I get to kill their Icehide Troll, but then I lose a land, and that's very bad now, because I did not hit a 4th land drop. So I don't think I'm attacking with a land again anytime soon. Do I just play a 2/3 blocker? Do I foretell my Dwarven Reinforcements? Fearless Liberator is not going to get in. It's not going to be able to boast with that 1 toughness. And only 2 power, it just doesn't attack into the troll well. I think I'm just playing the 2/3 blocker here. They need another snow mana to send in with the troll, and they basically just don't get to send in with the Berserker now. Unless they have some sort of pump spell. Alright, they are on the full Sultai, casting Binding the Old Gods to destroy one of our cards. They destroy our 2/3, so that they can attack in this turn freely. That does mean I get access to Avalanche Caller's ability through the rest of this game. May not matter if we don't hit more lands. Obviously, we want as many lands on the field to be activating the ability. So I could, again, just dome them for 4, because my only other options are to just play a 1/3 or a 2/1, which are both pretty unimpressive, and this Binding the Old Gods on the second part of this, they're going to grab a forest card, which is very likely to be a snow forest, which will give them access to the Troll's ability to get indestructible every turn. So Troll's probably just going to be slapping us with indestructibility very soon. So I could just hit them for 4 to put them to 12 to maybe get like a Frostpeak Yeti clock going on later in this game. 3 unblockable damage every turn. It just seems too risky to me. I think I'm just going to keep playing good blockers. They can't attack with both now because I could double block the 2/2. I think we're just all in on hitting some lands here. Our opponent has hit the second snow mana for the Icehide Troll. Well, still stuck on mana, so we're absolutely just going to foretell Behold the Multiverse, I think. Because then we get to cast it next turn to scry 2 and draw 2, looking for lands. If I'm playing a creature here, I'm playing my 2/1 Liberator. I could also just hold up the mana to make a 4/4 as a blocker. But the only reason I'd really want a 4/4 to block with would be to double block Grizzled Outrider, and I can't afford to let my land die doing that. So I think I foretell Behold the Multiverse, and we're going to be exiling Scorn Effigy from our grave with Vault Robber for the treasure. Couldn't do that last turn because of Summoning Sickness, but now Vault Robber is all ready to give us some treasure. Unfortunately, their whole field gets Death Touch here, so I think I'm probably also jump blocking with Vault Robber, maybe. Because if I don't block, I take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ooh, and there's a Narfi too. This game is quickly getting to an unwinnable state. If they get one more snow mana, they can just return Narfi from their graveyard to the battlefield every time it dies. So our opponent is really in the value here. We're not likely to be able to activate Avalanche Caller's ability again for pretty much the rest of this game because we just can't afford to lose lands. So I'm actually going to double block here to at least kill one of these things attacking me, and now I take 8, go to 10. And then maybe we just try to cast like Dwarven Reinforcements to get multiple chump blockers, but don't think there's really anything we can do at this point. So we're going to use Vault Robber now. Make sure we have at least 4 mana this turn. We do have 5 mana, so I could play Dwarven Hammer as a 5/1. I can trade that off with the Grizzled Outrider, and then I take 9 damage. Is that my best play? Off of 5 mana. I could cast Behold the Multiverse and just hope for something for 3 or less, but nothing I have for 3 or less would be as good as just playing a 5/1, I think. Could I even do... I mean, I could do like Fearless Liberator and Behold, but Fearless Liberator can only chump block. I can't kill anything with it. Well, we're dead to a lot of stuff here. We're just going to play the Dwarven Hammer so I have a creature big enough to trade with Grizzled Outrider. And then I take 4 from Narfi and 5 from Eyeside Troll if they spend the snow mana into it. And they just have the removal spell, so I'm just dead. Not a wonderful game there. I think we were just stuck on mana for too long. And our opponent did have the bigger cards than we did, for sure. At least in that game. We've got several, like, Bergstrider type 4/4s and some 2/5s in here. Stuff that would be big enough to still be very relevant to blockers, at least, in that situation. Just didn't have the mana for them or them in our hand, so not a wonderful time there. Stuck off of blue, but I don't need the blue mana till turn 5 with this hand. Although I'm not really doing anything in the early game, I'm just casting a Scorn Effigy turn 3 and holding up a Demon Bolt. Gonna keep this, but I'm not very happy with it, that's for sure. Especially coming off of the last game, I'm very worried about what happens if I draw poorly with this hand. Like, if we just keep drawing lands, then we will have an exact reverse game from last time. Alright, so turn 1, Sulphurous Mire. Play our tapped Snow Source. Turn 2, we're probably foretelling the Demon Bolt, because we can just cast Scorn Effigy for 3 next turn. Our opponent's on blue and white, starting off with a Pilfering Hawk. That is not something that I want to Demon Bolt, so we'll just play a 2/3. It's a solid card, though. It gets to loot all over the place in the early game here, thanks to their Snow Island. Kaldheim Courser on turn 3 here, so they're just like blue-red flyers over there. So the fact that the Pilfering Hawks are just going to be attacking for a lot of the early turns is it's actually a little scary. I guess it only hits us for 1, though. Scorn Effigy can't block anyway, so we'll just send in with that. I only need to hold up 1 mana to Demon Bolt something, so I will foretell a Doomscar Titan. Then probably Demon Bolting like Kaldheim Courser just to slow them down a little. And I'll have access to Squash after a couple turns. Next turn I'm going to play Bergstrider, and the turn after that I'll play Doomscar Titan. So it'll be a little while. Could Demon Bolt the Pilfering Hawk to kill it before it gets +1/+1. And they won't get the Spirit Token out of it that way. If I do that, we're killing just as big of a creature as we would be if we killed the Courser, and we're stopping them from getting Valor value. But they could have a counterspell here. Alright, no counterspell. So yeah, Demon Bolting that is just objectively more value than Demon Bolting the Courser at that point, because it would be a 2/3, it would just be a bigger flyer, and it would spit something out when it died. So now we're just casting Bergstrider, and we're trying to outrace their flyer stuff. We've got a backup removal spell, we've got a draw spell as well, so we are all set up to try to outrace them here. Because we're playing Doomscar Titan next turn, getting in for a lot of damage there. Bind the Monster does still deal 4 damage to them. I only take 5, 6, 7. I take 7 in the sky. If I Doomscar Titan here... I can't squash Mistwalker. So Scorn Effigy doesn't get in, but Doomscar Titan gets in for 5, puts him to 7. I think I'm still casting the Titan. Although I could afford to cast Behold the Multiverse and Squash. Should be solid. Let's just get in there, Titan. I guess there's no reason not to attack with the Scorn Effigy, so I probably should have just sent it in to threaten a Frostbite or something. But I'm pretty sure they'd block, but we'll never know since I didn't do that. The Raven's Warning unfortunately gains them life and gives them a blocker. It's really not what we want to see. Squash is still enough to kill Mistwalker, so that will be definitely what we're doing here, but let's Behold the Multiverse first to see if we draw anything better to do. Depart the Realms is really solid here too. What is mode 2? They get to look at our hand and draw a card. Okay. In part 3, they grab something from their sideboard and put it on top of their deck. Weird saga for sure. Yeah, so they draw 1 card next turn, because it's whenever 1 or more flyers hit us, they draw a card. So they'll hit us with more, but just draw 1. 3, 4, 5. We're gonna squash right now. I think I do want both these cards. Dwarven Hammer might be a little too slow, but I like the option of being able to cast this and just equip it immediately in the same turn. Alright, there's the chump block. They go down to 7. If they attack with everybody and they don't get another blocker, they do lose. So they're probably holding back the 1/1. Yeah, attack for 4 put me down to 7. We are going to depart the realm the 1/1. That's the plan. If I draw a basic land and they don't draw another blocker, then I get to depart the realm the 1/1 and equip hammer and just go in. Well, especially if they attack with the 1/1. Now if they draw just a creature and they just play a blocker here, if I draw land, I win no matter what. Alright, land? Ooh, I should have specified if I draw an untapped land. Do I still win? 5, 6, 7 mana. I guess they only hit us for 5 next turn because I can force a block with the Dwarven Hammer. 7 trampling power, so I hit for 3, 4, 5. They have to block or they die. If I bounce it to their hand, I do deal 6 instead. And I could bounce it to their hand and make a token. Sure. They go to 1 this way. And even if they leave all of their stuff untapped with the Dwarven Hammer, if I throw that onto like Doomscar Titan, I'm pretty sure I still just kill them because I have 7 power with Trample. They'd have to block with Mistwalker for 4, Vega for 2, that for 1, so that'd be 7 right there. And then that could only block 1 thing, and then just the 2/1 gets in for 2. So they do still just die if they only play 1 creature here. Thanks to trample. Yep, foretell a card. Pretty sure we have lethal on board. A 7/4 trample has to be blocked with 7 toughness. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. Then they only have 1 blocker for our other 2 creatures. I don't even know if I have to move this. I'm not so good at trample math, but I know that if I do move it, I win. So I'm going to move it rather than do the math otherwise. Yeah, no, I have to move it, because if it's just on a 5/1 trample, they block with 4 there, 1 there, and then they can chump those 2 and survive that turn. I was pretty sure I'd have to move it. But I did the math while they were deciding whether or not they wanted to scoop or take face damage. So we are we 2-1 or just 1-1 here? Don't remember. We are 2-1, so off to a pretty good start here. Twice as many wins as losses, can't complain. This is not the most tribally Blue-Red Giants deck, it's kind of just... It's a little bit of Blue-Red Snow and a little bit of Blue-Red Giants. Obviously, even though we're not the kind of deck that just has a million tokens to keep re-equipping the hammer to, the Dwarven Hammer is still just a very powerful card, as we saw in that game. Doing some fantastic stuff for us. Alright, so we're heading into round 4 with 2 wins and 1 loss under our belt. Double Avalanche Color with 2 snow lands. This hand's just really bad. All of my lands come to play tapped. I can only afford the Vault Robber, no blue sources. Definite mulligan here. Ooh. Ooh. The mana is not resulting in fun times right now. We do have 17 lands, and all of our lands are blue or red sources, so it's literally just like... It's the exact same as a 17 land, 9 island, 8 mountain deck would be. Just some of our islands and mountains come to play tapped. I really don't want to mold a 5. I think I'm going to keep this. I get the turn 2 Avalanche Color that maybe draws removal. Probably getting rid of Frostpire Arcanist, because I don't have any giants I get to play in the early game to make this cost only 4 mana, so we have to wait till after we play Bergstrider, or we're just casting this for the full 5. And Squash as well. Squash is just so expensive in this hand because we don't have any of our early giants or our Mistwalker, the Changeling. So we could very, very easily get mana screwed with this hand. Even now, even after drawing 1 land, we still need 2 more to get to like half our hand here, so it's so risky. Agar is a good draw if our opponent doesn't immediately kill it. Our opponent goes double forest into Sculptor of Winter, so they are some kind of green deck. Triple forest with Sculptor of Winter out, so our opponent is having some issues as well. Both of us having a snow card with no snow lands to play around with is definitely kind of awkward for the both of us. Are they still stuck on just 3 mono green right now? Looks to be the case. So I can cast Frostpire Arcanist now this turn, just as a 2/5, but I think I'd rather just attack with Agar, because they could have Snakeskin Veil in their hand to put a +1/+1 counter on one of their creatures and give it hexproof, and they might try to block and cast that here if they do have it. So again, they might have Snakeskin Veil in their hand, so it could be risky to squash the Sculptor here. But I am going to go for it. Alright, they don't have that, so we get to just draw a card there. And now we're having just a great time. Drawing a card gets us closer to our 5th land, and we hit another Bergstrider, so we just have very powerful late game plays, and our opponent is just stuck on mana here to just not have any early game plays, really. So now I'm just casting Bergstriders for the heck of it. I could cast Frostpire Arcanist instead and grab another Squash to be ready for whatever creatures they play, but I already have a Demon Bolt for whatever creature they play next, so I'd rather get the higher power creature out. Even though we aren't getting any value out of the tap ability on Bergstrider, we're kind of just killing our opponent instead. So, looks like some mana issues for our opponent here will very likely cost them the game. I am going to Frostpire Arcanist for another squash now, so that I have just double removal up, so they're definitely dead no matter what, because I've got well over lethal, whether or not I put a 4-power creature out or a 2-power creature out, plus now I have a Bergstrider in my hand as a backup as well, so I could tap a creature, blow up a creature, blow up 2 creatures, any combination of that here. And I'll just tap a creature. Really unfortunate time for our opponent. Looks like they were on green-blue Shapeshifters, green-blue Changelings. Definitely a fun deck. Unfortunate to see it not operate there. So the Bears of Litjar is the coolest kind of green-blue Changeling tribal card in the set. And that's a rare saga that turns all of your Changelings into 4/4s. So I bet they had some fun play-around stuff like that they could do later, but obviously the mana was not there for them. Alright, we are mono red off of this hand, but we've got Dwarven Hammer, and I love that card, and it's super powerful. I've got turn 2 Vault Robber, so I have some blockers. It is an awkward hand not having both of our colors, but we don't need blue until we draw a blue card anyway, so it's also a slow hand. I mean, we're playing a 2-mana card, and then we're waiting till 5, and then we're playing like Hammer and Titan. It's definitely not a fantastic hand, but I do not believe it is worth a mulligan. Our opponent starts off with an Ice Tunnel and drops a Mountain, playing a turn 2 Axeguard Cavalry. That's a 2/2 that can tap to give a creature haste until end of turn. So in the early game, it's a 2-mana 2/2 attacker, and then it has an ability that's relevant later once you're casting your 4/4s and 5/5s and your 2/2s don't get in. If they want to spend a run-amok to kill my 1/3 here, I'm happy with that. The Vault Robber's just not going to be doing anything this game but blocking anyway. We did draw our blue source, but we don't even need it yet, so I'm going to play a tapped land here since I'm not going to play Dwarven Hammer without getting a dwarf out of it, so I only need 2 mana here. So I'll just use my 2 mana to foretell. And we can play an untapped land next turn, just in case I draw like a 4-mana card. That leaves me open to do that. Nothing from our opponent, and Avalanche Colors the draw? That should draw removal from our opponent, if nothing else. I'm not casting anything else this turn, so I think I will just drop it. It's probably getting blown up or countered or something like that, because I've got 3 Snowlands on the board, which means next turn, if I untap with this out, I can just attack them with 2 hexproofing 4/4 lands, and that's probably what I'll do rather than play Doomscar Titan, to be honest. If I can get my lands to start trading into their creatures, I'm just so in the value this game. So, pretty sure Avalanche Caller is going to get blown up big time. We'll see, though. They haven't done anything yet, so maybe they just don't have something yet. They do have 5 cards in hand and access to 5 mana, 2 red, 2 blue, and a blue or black off of the Ice Tunnel. They do have the squash to kill Avalanche Caller. Alright. That is not the end of the world. I do get to get a treasure token out of it with Vault Robber. There's no reason to leave it in my grave. I don't have anything that cares about what's in my grave except for cards that care about the instants and the sorceries in my grave. I almost accidentally used Vault Robber's ability before attacks. That would have been pretty bad. I would have given my opponent 2 damage to my face for free. We don't want to do that. So now we've got 6 mana. Not quite enough for the Cinderheart Giant, but I could even just play the tapped Floodplain? Glacial Floodplain here. Do I want to play Dwarven Hammer or do I want to play Doomscar Titan first? Depends on if I think they have more removal. If I think they have more like Demon Bolts and Squashes, I would rather play the Dwarven Hammer, because then maybe they shoot my 2/1 token. But if they don't have more removal, Doomscar Titan's just a better attacker, because it gets to just keep sending in against a 2/2 and just never trade off. I guess, like, worst case scenario, if they have removal, then that's less removal for once Cinderheart Giant comes out. Which Cinderheart Giant could come out next turn if I just play an untapped land now to play a 5-drop, and then next turn play an untapped land, sack the token. Maybe I am just leaving Dwarven Hammer for last here. And now that I know I'm getting in for 5 damage this turn, I think I'm attacking with both. Because I get in with 2 damage by attacking it with Vault Grabber. Vault Grabber? My English understanding just devolves every time I record videos. Anyways, yeah, I'm trading. My opponent can do 2 damage to me if they want to, but they probably won't with how big my field is potentially. Uh-oh, Frostpire Arcanist into another squash. Well, never mind. So we may actually just be against another red-blue giant stack with just a snow sub-theme, and the Ice Tunnel is just in there for the blue snow source. Alright, so are we just still casting Cinderheart Giant here? They've cast 2 squashes. How likely would it be that they have a third? And if they're just blue-red, the only way that they could kill the Cinderheart Giant would be like a squash or a Raven form. But I could just play a Dwarven Hammer. I could also do that. You know, I want to play my really big thing. This also lets me play around like a counter spell. Just get a big old 7/6 out here. Uncounterable because they're tapped out. I don't want to like completely cross out the fact that they could have black removal from my mind. But I think it's pretty likely they just have the Ice Tunnel in there for Berg Striders, just like I have my Snowlands for them as well. I guess I do also have the other thing. The thing that got exiled, where is it? Avalanche Caller for my Snowlands. So I can squash. I've got 6 mana here. If I play Dwarven Hammer, I'm not playing anything else. Because I either just play it and equip it, or I play it and get a token. Either way, I'm spending 5 or 6 mana. I guess I can hold up Squash if something crazy happens, but I think I just attack with Cinderheart Giant. It's got 6 toughness, so they have to block with everything, and then I might be able to get like a massive 3-for-1 with Squash if they don't have a counterspell. And if they do have a counterspell, then I still kill 2 of their creatures. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4... So I only kill 1 and they stop all the damage. But I don't lose Cinderheart Giant, so that's fine. Oh, I guess they would have to trade every single one of their creatures for Cinderheart Giant if they want to trade for it because of its death ability. But yeah, right now it's going to be fine. I guess this could be a Demon Bolt here, trying to hit it for 4, but Demon Bolt would still be enough to kill the Giant. Even if I kill one of these, it'll take 2 damage and then 4 more damage from Demon Bolt. So yeah, squashing here is not going to save my Giant, so we'll just kill their biggest Giant. And my Giant isn't in danger unless they also have Demon Bolt. I guess if they had Frostbite, we could have saved it. So that might have been the thing there. Do I want to play Dwarven Hammer or hold up Squash and cast Liberator? I think I just want to play Dwarven Hammer. I want to play a creature that's big enough to attack into a 2/4. And a 2/1 is definitely not. Although I suppose I could potentially have like squashed their 2/4. They do have the Frostbite. Alright, fair enough. I get to kill one of their creatures when the Giant dies. We've still got Dwarven Hammer as a threat. They're down to 1 creature, 1 card in hand. I think we're still in a very solid position to win this game, especially if we can clear their board and start boasting with Liberator. Then we are just gliding overall. Or I suppose trampling overall more accurately. Alright, just some 2/4s. Going to my turn, let's get a treasure token. We don't need any of our cards in grave for anything. So we may as well get the extra mana so we could re-equip hammers more often and things like that. Just hold up a Squash, send in with the 5/1 token. Trade into Kinseekers. because I want to clear out their creatures. I could have moved the hammer and just attacked with Vault Robber, but then they could still double block and still trade 1 for 1 there. So it would be better against 1 Kinseekers. I guess I could move the hammer, squash 1 of them. That does seem pretty solid. Probably move the hammer and then squash 1 of those blockers would have been better. I think I actually want to throw it on the robber here. For now. If they don't play another creature, then we can just squash Kinseekers. If they do play another creature, we're probably not wanting to attack with Liberator anyway, even if it had the hammer on it. Because if they play another creature that's like more power, more than 2 power, we can just kill that, and then Vault Robber still gets to send in, whereas Liberator wouldn't, without dying at least. I should have squashed pre-combat here. I am missing some stuff. Let's see if it works out. It may not. We'll see. Yep, that was really bad sequencing on my end. I just got really excited to attack. I do feel that, I mean, several pros have said this as well, several pro streamers like LSV and Marshall, Ben Stark, people like that. I do feel I play significantly worse when I'm recording than when I'm not, and it's pretty embarrassing, unfortunately, because it's like I find the plays, but I find them a little later than usual because my mind is like multitasking of trying to actually spit out all of my thoughts and why I'm doing my plays. It's so much easier to just think something and act on it than to express your thoughts while doing it, if that makes sense. Maybe not for all people, but definitely for me. I'm pretty introverted in that sense. It takes just a lot of brain energy to try to like reason and logic, to explain my reasoning and logic and all that. I mean, just sending him with Vault Robber again. They have to just chump here if they don't have another play. They do have a Demon Bolt to shoot it with, alright. Agar it is. I would rather suit up the 5/1 first. So if I draw into any removal, Agar could be drawing me cards. Craven Holt can't block alone, so if I do draw removal, I just get to kill Kinseekers. Ooh. Speak of the devil and it shall appear. So another game where my plays were definitely suboptimal, but still got there in the end because the deck is quite solid. I think we're 3-1 right now. But yeah, this is why I just love that Dwarven Hammer. That thing is absurd. I think it is better than the rare that we had in that pack. It has just been putting in so much work. So we're at 4 wins and 1 loss. Whatever happens here, we're getting 1,400 gems out of it. It's a pretty great return to the Kaldheim draft after the little break we had with like a sealed and Friday Night Magic. So happy to be back with a decent win rate here, even if I think I'm definitely playing worse than some of the games that were happening in like my 03 drafts. But the deck itself is doing some work. It's being very solid for me. So we have both of our colors, and we have a pretty scary curve. Fearless Liberator into Arnie. Ooh, and I've got a Demon Bolt coming up now. So I could play the value game. This is one of those really interesting decisions here, because I can play the value game and just spit out a 2/1, and then I'm getting more overall value out of all of my cards by doing that. Or I can get more damage and more pressure on my opponent by just casting Arnie. Because I hit them for 5 this turn if I do that. Or I just hit them for 2 and basically draw a card out of Liberator. Just draw a 2/1 out of it. And have Arnie for later. If our opponent plays Magda... If our opponent plays Magda, what do I want to do? And now I've drawn Agar as well. So I don't get to attack in freely anymore. I kind of think I want to... I don't know if I want to offer trade with that. I don't know how likely they would be to have other dwarfs, but I do like stopping them from getting treasure tokens, especially when they start with double red. They might be stuck off of a second color. See, now we've got just another interesting decision. This format is very complex, and there's always a ton of lines of play because of stuff like Boast here. Like, I could play the Haste Arnie and just send in and just smash face, or I could just attack with Liberator, hope for a trade, and then play Agar. I could... Like, do I even want the trade here because Liberator can make 2/1s? I think I want the trade. But yeah, then we have, if the trade happens... Do I want to get a 2/1 out of the Liberator, or do I want to get Agar on the board? I kind of want to get Agar on board so I can cast Demon Bolt and draw a card off of that. So it's like either route I'm taking, I'm basically drawing a card. I'm drawing a 2/1, or I'm drawing a card off Agar. I'm just going to take the trade there. The format is very complex with things like that, where it's like I don't know what's right, and there were literally like 6 different choices throughout that one turn on turn 3 against a single 2/1 for my opponent. There were just several different ways that could play out, like whether they blocked or didn't block. You know, pre-combat we had to decide between playing the haste creature or not, just stuff like that. Well, very happy with what I chose, because I'm killing that thing right now. Get off the board. So, obviously that panned out well. Our opponent played a 3-mana 3/3, so it's a solid body. The scary part of this card is that they get a mana whenever they cast things, so basically all of their spells have a 1-mana discount, so our opponent could really easily have untapped and then just played 2, like, 3-mana spells. Or a 3-mana spell and a 2-mana spell and a 1-mana spell. Something like that. And unfortunately, with these Frostpire Arcanists, I only have 1 Demon Bolt in my deck, so they don't get the value there. Do I want to play Arnie and just attack with both of these? I send in with a 4/3 and a 3/3. They double block one of them. And if they double block Agar, I at least draw a card. I don't have any more burn spells in my hand, but I do have more giants that could deal excess damage to maybe draw more cards. Our opponent's just mono red so far. I could also just play my own Dwarven Reinforcements and we just trade off there. I think I want to just smash face. That's what I like to do. So they double block one of these and kill it. I would probably double block Agar if I were my opponent. But I draw a card when I do that. That's like how hard Agar is to deal with. Is that like, sure, now I'm killing both their creatures and drawing a card. That being said, it's not like I'm 2 for 1ing them, because they did get both of those creatures off of just 1 card. Yeah, we'll do 2 damage to one of them, it doesn't matter. One of them's getting dealt excess damage. Draw the card there. Do really want to hit the 5th land for the Bergstrider. That would be fantastic. Tap their next creature and keep it tapped. Immersturm Raider from our opponent. They can discard a card and draw a card when they play it. If they are 2 colors, they're probably trying to dig for that second one there. But they do just discard a mountain and foretell a card. They could be the full mono red. That would be pretty cool. We're just going to Bergstrider. Tap that creature, keep it tapped. Send in for 3, they're down to 10. And now I get to attack with a 4/4 and with Arnie's ability, a 5/3 if I boast. Gold Vein Pick from our opponent. Not very good on the defensive. But it does still give +1/+1. But it will not be giving them any treasure tokens. They've got 1 red up here, probably Demon Bolt foretold. Yep, they're going to cast it before I untap in case I have any counter spells or anything in my deck. I can't play anything with haste, and I can't get anything off of Frostpire Arcanist, so I kind of want to just play 2 2/1s, so I have 2 blockers for that and more attackers. And then I could maybe play like a Kinseekers next turn. I can't like play anything in Boast to hit them for more with Arnie. And Arnie only cares about other creatures, so boasting with only Arnie on the board doesn't do anything. It does not make Arnie a 4-power creature. Although that would be kind of cool. Cosmos Elixir. Alright. This card is the bane of my existence. I don't know if I've ever won a game against one of these, probably. But I do absolutely hate this card. If you can get the board into a board stall, the game just turns into a winning game for you. Luckily for me here, the board is not a board stall right now. I still have the advantage to where I can keep attacking in. It doesn't even matter if I use the boast ability here, so just hold up 2 mana and scare them a little more. So Cosmos Elixir gains you 2 life at your end step every turn, but if you get up to that 20 life, then you just start drawing 2 cards a turn. But, yeah, I mean, we're in a really solid position against a Cosmos Elixir because we still have multiple attackers, they just have no blockers. Now they're tapped out for when I cast Cinderheart Giant. Big old attacker. My options were to cast... Oh, they're just dead. I didn't even do the math. But my options were to cast the big old 7/6 or one of my 4 mana creatures there. I think we're at 5 wins now. This has been a fantastic draft. So, yeah, 5 wins. Whatever happens now, we get those 1,600 gems back. Well, we get our 1,500 gems back and more. We get an additional 100. Really nice way to hop back into the drafts. I am very happy whatever happens now, but maybe we could even get a 7-win run coming back to it. Just waiting on our round 7 opponent now. 5 wins and 1 loss. That's 6 games in so far, heading into the 7th. Alright, here we are. We've got both of our colors. We have 1 snow mana. Slightly slow hand, but our deck is a slightly slow deck. So that is to be expected. All right. I think I might have done it wrong last time. I think I'm gonna foretell Scorn Effigy. That way, if I draw like a 3-mana creature turn 3, I can have 2 creatures out on this turn. Oh god. Toralf's Hammer. They can equip it for 2, and then they can spend 2, tap unattached to deal 3 to any target and bring that back to their hand. So if they get a creature on board, they just get to keep shooting all of our creatures. As long as they have the expendable mana, they can just infinite for 1 us. They just kill everything we play slowly. Well, that is terrifying. Yeah, I don't know what to do here. I guess I'll play my creature, and then we'll probably just be trying to kill all of their creatures. Oh, I guess that goes back to their hand too, so they can also just recast it as the 5/4 trample after it goes to their hand. They don't even have to just keep replaying the hammer. That is a super scary time. I don't know what I want to foretell here. Demon Bolt is cheap enough that I don't really need to foretell it to have access to it later, so I kind of want to foretell like Doomscar Titan. But then I don't have a play next turn. Yeah, I'm going to foretell Dwarven Reinforcements, so even if I don't hit a land, I've got a solid play next turn. I can just drop 2/2/1s. Obviously trying to get aggressive against their hammer. Bloodline Pretender on zombies. Alright. Don't really expect them to play more than 2 zombies in 1 turn next turn, so I'll just play the reinforcements now and we'll plan on demon bolting their Pretender next turn. We do play 1 zombie, a Draugr Recruiter. I have drawn into Dwarven Hammer, but I am stuck on mana here. So I can Demon Bolt one thing, but I don't even get in now that they have 2/3/3s. And I wouldn't be able to get in even if I did Demon Bolt Pretender earlier. I guess I'm probably actually just playing Dwarven Hammer now. But then they get to like Toralf's Hammer everything I try to throw it on. I think it's my best play. It is unfortunate not getting to get a 5/1 trample, but it's the only way I'm going to be able to start sending in here. All of a sudden, these 2/1s are going to be 5/1 trampling threats, one at a time, sending in, taking something out with them. They do have to spend 2 mana to equip the hammer, so it locks down their 1 red as well, because it's not even 2 colorless to use it. So they have thrown the hammer onto the recruiter, so if I throw my hammer onto something, they'll just respond by shooting it, and I don't get an attack in anyway, so we're just not going to do that, I think. I could just kill the recruiter, but then they just respond by killing one of my things. When they only have 1 red, they can't recast it and re-equip it next turn. So it is slow enough to be outraceable here. I think I'm just like foretelling a card here, honestly. If I play Avalanche Caller, it's just going to get shot. Demon Bolt doesn't help me because they can just do this in response to me trying to Demon Bolt. Maybe I do just want more creatures out. I don't know. I'm just going to make Doomscar Titan more reasonably castable sooner in the game. Foretelling in a way that it makes them think, maybe I foretold a Demon Bolt. I'm surprised they didn't use the hammer during my end step to just kill my 2/3. But I guess that means they're going to be spending all their mana this turn. Bloodline Pretender is a 4/4 now. They've cast another zombie. They've got 2 mana up in black and red. I think the best they could do to save their Pretender would be... Oh no, if their Foretold card is a Jarl, that's so bad for me, because the Jarl would be a 2 mana 3/2 flash zombie. If their Foretold card is not a Jarl, I can Demon Bolt Pretender. I think that's my plan, is just a Demon Bolt now. We're having a rough go of it again with the mana. Shoot Scorn Effigy. Oh, it does cost the 2 mana to shoot it as well? That is true, okay. So they don't have the mana up now to cast a Jarl if they do have one Foretold. So we'll cast Demon Bolt right there. Of course, I don't have removal for the 5/4 Trample now, but if they just cast a 5/4 Trample, that's much more manageable than the equipment hopping around everywhere and blowing my stuff up. If they just cast a 5/4 Trample, we can just play 4/4s, 2 5s, 2 4s, and just double block and all the normal ways you deal with creatures. Of course, they are just recasting Toralf's Hammer. Much harder for my deck to deal with. So, they've got that 3/3. I'm just not getting anywhere with my 2/1s. I guess I get to actually equip a Dwarven Hammer and just trade with something and ship away from some damage here. My only other option is to play a 1/3 or a 2/1. Although I am getting to that point where I'm going to need more creatures so that I can actually block their aggression. Whatever I play is just going to draw that hammer as removal for it. I think we're pretty out of it this game. Toralf's Hammer just seems like the kind of card that you need to be able to outrace this, or it just takes over the game with the amount of value it gets by shredding multiple cards off of this one thing over and over and over again. Like, this one card potentially kills infinite of my cards. They've killed a Scorn Effigy already. If they dump the mana into it, now they get to kill an Avalanche Caller. If they dump the mana into it again after that, then they get to kill a Fearless Liberator. They're like potentially 3 for 1-ing, 4 for 1-ing, and more with that. So we really needed to just hit our land drops in a really efficient sense. So we're not mana screwed super bad here. Like, we can get out of it eventually and cast things, but we would have had to get out of this mana screw faster, I think, to outrace. That is a good draw, though. Arnie's not really going to help us, because we're getting to the point where we can't really attack him. With a 3-3, I send in on the Draugr, and it just trades. Even if I bump the mana into it, we do just need that 5th land. Pretty hard for the Bergstriders. It's about the only time my 2/1s can actually get value, so I'm going to send in here. They don't have the snow mana to give Grim Draugr Menace, so I can block it with a 3-5. If they send him with the Liberator, I can block that with a 3-5. They could, of course, equip the hammer and shoot the hammer to make any block on their thing lethal, but I've got 4/4s coming up that tap things down every time I play them, so I'm not super concerned with all of my creatures on the board surviving. I just want to trade off, even if I'm like 1 for 1-ing myself into a smaller card. I did hit that 5th land for Bergstrider. Unfortunately, their flying is being given to them by an equipment, so I can't stop something from flying over me. I could equip a hammer here, but I'm pretty sure I want to play a Bergstrider. Do I want to play a Bergstrider pre-combat? Not particularly, because I kind of just want anything to block and trade. I guess they could like block Kinseekers with Liberator and shoot it with Draugr. But then like these two get through. That seems fine. I'm just going to attack here and then post-combat Bergstrider to keep something tapped. Poison the Cup is the foretold card. Well, goodbye to the 3-5. That is for sure. They don't have the mana up to shoot something with Draugr now, so they're probably just taking 4 and they're planning on cracking back. Alright, I think we want to tap down... I think we do still want to tap down the Flyer. The Liberator does get to make a 2/1 Berserker off of its Boast ability when it sends in. But I want to try to, like, soak up their mana. So, like, now, if I tap down Recruiter, if they want to, like, give something else flying and Boast with Liberator, they have to spend all their mana to do that. Like, they spend 2 to throw wings onto Liberator and 3 to give flying, so... I think we're just keeping Recruiter tapped to force a re-equip to give something flying, and if they don't give something flying, Bergstrider can block and trade with something. If they hold up the 2 damage from the Toralf's Hammer, it will be a trade. If they don't hold up that 2 mana to use that, then I can block and even just eat something, but I highly doubt that happens. Pretty sure they're going to just like do 3 damage plus the 2 damage from Liberator. We could even consider not blocking. It depends on what they do here. I guess if they attack with both, I'm just taking 5 and I'm at 12, so I'll go down to 7 and then I cast another Bergstrider next turn. Ooh, if they play a Lifelinker, I'm going to have to tap that down. Yeah, we have to just tap that down pre-combat here too. And we're hoping Doomscar Titan's going to be lethal next turn, I think. Get that Lifelinker down so it can't block this turn, and it can't block next turn. I attack him with everybody, and they can block Bergstrider with Liberator and shoot it for 3 with Draugr, but then they take 4. We have to just like go for it here. Ooh, they could do that too, that's true. They can shoot the hammer at the creature that the Draugr's blocking. But now I've cleared out all their creatures. They're going to have a single untapped creature, just the Draugr Recruiter. And they're at 8, so Doomscar Titan is super lethal if they don't leave their shields up. They might actually just play the God as a 5/4 trample now. It is actually very relevant as that at this point just as a blocker since they're down to 8. This game has been a lot closer than I was expecting. Like, I feel like I have a little bit of hope. It's not a lot, but if our opponent does not leave up some defenses, Doomscar Titan can win it out of nowhere, and that's basically our only hope. They're pretty bound to leave up some defenses, though, with our Dwarven Hammer on the field to give something +3 and trample. Our field is pretty scary without Titan. But yeah, if they only have one creature to block with, I can get there. Toralf's Hammer. They just play Toralf's Hammer, equip it to Recruiter. They can survive this turn, but I can put myself in a pretty good position, I think. Because now I played Doomscar Titan. Everything gets +1/+0. And haste. So they block Bergstrider and shoot my 2/1, which would be a 3/1. So they would take 5 and go to 3 life. Alternatively, I can give Bergstrider Trample, then it has 7 power against the 3 toughness blockers, so I hit them for 4 there, and they shoot the 2/1, so take no damage there. If I do that, I get to play Fearless Liberator as well. I think I'm just playing Doomscar Titan. Because I get in for 5 damage, and I leave a 4/4 on the board. Don't have anything I can grab with Frostpire Arcanist. Yeah, let's get in for 5. They do get to untap the lifelinker, though. At this point, that's what I'm worried about now. That'll get them out of lethal range next turn. For certain. Does the hammer deal damage? No, the creature deals the damage, so Toralf's Hammer with lifelink is really going to get them out of this one, I think. Because now they just equip the hammer to Faithful next turn, and they can block and shoot with it, so they gain 6 life there. So they're down to 3, we leave the Bergstrider on the board. I suppose if I draw into any removal, if they're just recasting a hammer here and they don't get another blocker, I could win it. Because they can only do 3 damage. Actually, no, that still wouldn't be quite lethal, because if they do 3 damage with Faithful, they gain 3 life. Even if they're just doing the hammer damage. This has been a crazy game. Provoke the trolls, and they're going to throw some more damage off a second spell here. Frostbite, so they get in for 3, gain 3. Lifelink is very, very huge right now. And there's the Toralf's Hammer. So they just shoot whatever creature I play here. Frostpire Arcanist is too big for them to shoot, but I don't have enough mana to play that and equip it this turn. I also don't have enough mana to play that and another creature, so I kind of want to just play 2 creatures here. But then again, if I play 2 creatures, they get to shoot one with the hammer. I'm just going to really make sure I don't have a Demon Bolt or Dwarven Reinforcements in this deck, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, I only got 1 Demon Bolt. I just have Squash and multiples. If I play a 2/5, they equip Hammer to the Faithful. No, if I play a 2/5, I'm so hosed. Actually, I think I need to just spread my field out, because if I play a 2/5, then they just give their 3/1 lifelink or flying, and they hit me for 4 lifelink damage. They're up to 10. There's just no way I outrace that. At least by playing these 2, they might actually have to equip Hammer and not attack this turn. Because if they equip Rings, they hit for 4 and go to 10, but they're at 10 against potentially 6 power of creatures, so I don't need a whole lot more to get to lethal off of that, in my opponent's eyes, I feel. Of course, we know what's in our deck. We don't really have like a random thing that's going to add 4 more damage out of nowhere. Oh dear. Cinderheart Giant it is. Depart the Realm. Does that get there? Wait, does this work if anyone controls a giant? Why does this only cost 4? I don't control a giant. Oh, it works off of wizards? I don't control a wizard either. What? This spell costs 1 less if you control a giant or wizard. I don't control a giant or a wizard. Alright, well that's weird. I don't know why this only costs 4 right now. Probably a glitch. So anyways, I need to do the math here for Depart the Realm. If I get rid of their lifelink, they... Okay, they still win if I get rid of the lifelink. Or they still don't die, at least. But Depart's pretty big. If I Depart, can I force them into a block? I can't force them into a block. Yeah, that was just triggering off my opponent's giant. That's so weird. So 5. They have to block here or they die. I think I would rather them trade for Liberator. I guess maybe I'd rather them trade for Robber. But I think either way they would just trade for the Liberator. So I don't think it really matters where I put the hammer. I get in for just as much damage either way because of trample. Avalanche Caller. I can make 1 hasty 4/4. Oh, if I had 1 more mana. I hope I didn't miss a Vault Robber trigger earlier in this game to get a treasure. I might have. So I make a hasty 4/4 and I attack with Vault Robber. They have to block the 4/4 and take 1. I could just try to Avalanche Caller them for lethal out of nowhere later. Do I just Frostpire Arcanist now and Dwarven Hammer onto the Vault Robber? Oh, I have a Squash in my grave? When did that happen? They milled it off of Koma's thing! It's not lethal yet, because if I kill that giant it does 7 damage to something, but that is very relevant. Oh my god, I actually get a Squash. They milled a thing. But yeah, I think I'm kind of cheating right now, technically. Because that should not have cost me only 4 mana. And the only way I managed to play that and equip was the fact that it only cost 4. I didn't break Arena. Arena broke itself. It's not my fault. Oh no, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Hammersturm Predator, one of the least beatable cards in the set. It doesn't have haste, right? 2 mana, tap, unattached. It doesn't have haste, so I actually just take 7. Try to squash Predator. They can give it indestructible, but then they just die? Do they have 2 damage in their hand? If they don't have 2 damage in their hand, then they just lose now. Like, on board, they just lose. Well, not on board, but like without the Avalanche Caller is what I meant. Alright, the Predator has to tap to get indestructible, right? It does. I'm going to play the Avalanche Caller as well, just to be very sure, because they do have 2 mana up, so I don't want to lose to them just having a... like a Frostbite or something. I guess Frostbite would only do like 1 right now. Oh, the Cinderheart Giant does kill something. So I do need the Avalanche Caller, but Avalanche Caller will get there. Our opponent's gonna nice that because they think that I just RNG'd into the win. Ah, I didn't get to show them the Avalanche Caller. That actually makes me really sad. I forgot to disable emotes there, but my opponent with the BM nice, just nice. They thought they lost because they lost the coin flip, but I could have Avalanche Collared and sent in the extra 4. I wanted to reverse nice. I wasn't actually gonna emote. I don't like being directly rude to my opponents, so I just avoid emotes altogether now because I don't know what the emote etiquette is. So every time that an emote comes out of my opponent, I'm surprised because I forget that I turned them back on. I usually just turn emotes on when I'm playing with friends and viewers, like on Twitch. When we were playing Brawl earlier today, that must have been that. Or I guess it was yesterday. So yeah, I did not expect the nice to just pop out there. So we're 6-1. This deck has been super, super nice. Super sweet. I am so surprised we won that game, by the way. I mean, you could tell from how I was talking in the discussion when I was discussing the Toralf's Hammer. I thought that card was just going to be way too much to push through. And it was a lot to push through, but we got there. A lot of our creatures were just big enough that they were having to block and use the Hammer's ability on it, and it is pretty mana restrictive to do that. Alright. Yeah, that's a definite keep. I think we're actually... It depends on what our opponent plays, but I might actually be foretelling Dwarven Reinforcements on turn 2 rather than playing a Vault Robber, because it's going to get more relevant attackers on the board. So if my opponent doesn't get any early creatures, then our plan is to just foretell Reinforcements turn 2 so we can get aggressive. No creatures yet. Let's just foretell. Now they just play like a 2-2. A 2-2 first strike is a much worse time, that's for sure. Because a 2-2 first strike can block our 2-1s and just eat them. So I could just stop the damage by playing the 1-3, but I still think I'd rather put 2-1s on this board. Now if they want to attack me, then their shields are down for my 2-1s to get in. And we're probably departing the realm on that, because this has a very, very bad boast ability for me. If they hit 5 mana, they can just start spitting out 5/5 dragons every time it attacks. So we're probably going to depart that before combat when they would have 5 mana. And I'm going to hold on to depart the realm here rather than foretelling, because I want to have access to it next turn, just in case. If they like suit up the Berserker to get in for a really big swing this turn and spend all their mana into it. Any kind of big equipment like that. If they throw that on the Berserker, I'm probably just bouncing it this turn, because then they don't get a treasure token by hitting me, or they don't kill Vault Robber here. And they don't have enough mana to recast Berserker till next turn. See, that seems really solid. I'll just take 3. Just crack back here. We'll play a Dwarven Hammer. Fearless Liberator's the draw. Yeah, we're still playing Dwarven Hammer. Bam. We can trade on blocks there with the 5/1. Just to keep them off of that treasure. But I could also just not block, because they're down to 11 now. I guess none of my creatures attack in well against a first striker, so if they send in the attack, we're just going to block there. Yeah, now we are just going to die to Dragonkin Berserker, which is unfortunate. I can't send in anything, or it gets killed in first strike damage before it deals any damage. So I send in my 5/1, they just block with the first striker and whatever. If I attack with everything, they block the 5/1 with the first striker, the 2/1 with the 4/3, and they take like 3 damage, go to 8, and then just attack in with Berserker, get a 5/5 flyer. I am pretty out of luck here. I'm just going to suit up the Vault Robber so I have a creature that's big enough to block Dragonkin Berserker and kill it, but they are going to get a 5/5 Flying Dragon out of it, which is a 3-turn clock against me. Although if they ever attack with that dragon, they aren't holding up the blockers to stop all of my attackers, so we can still try to outrace a 5/5 Flying Dragon, but they can absolutely get one here. And they did not choose to get one. So now they're probably holding up some kind of instant speed removal. How good is Doomscar Titan right now? If I play Doomscar Titan, they block Fearless Liberator with first strike. They block that there. Let's say they stop all that damage somehow. Then they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This actually might be lethal, because Titan's 5, so they can, if they just block all the damage on my biggest creatures, they stop 5 there and 5 there somehow, and they take 4 times 3, they take 12? Alright, it's a risky one, but I'm going to go for it. If they don't have an instant speed removal spell, this is a winning play. But they probably have, like, Feed the Serpent. If they have Feed the Serpent, it's probably still worth an attack. Because they go block, block. I guess then they go block there, Feed the Serpent there, take 9. I think it's still worth the attack. We put them down to 2, even with an instant speed removal spell. We're going to have to try to outrace some really big dragons coming up. Oh yeah, that block, it's definitely Feed the Serpent. Or, well, any instant speed removal. Could be a Demon Bolt or something. Alright, Feed the Serpent it is. They go to 2. They go to 2. They still have a Dragonkin Berserker. Oh. Neither of us did the trample damage, I see. Well, no one did the trample math there, and luckily I was not the one who had to do the trample math. So they would have had to Feed the Serpent my Trampler and chump block the 5/4 to survive that turn, I believe, but I think they could have. Alright, well, again, was not expecting that. I was super scared of that first striker, because that thing could block any of my creatures and eat them. But again, Dwarven Hammer making that big trampler, and then getting the big Anthem effect of buffing up all of my creatures, +1/+0. That big Titan was just such a good game ender there. This has been a solid red-blue deck. I would say Dwarven Reinforcements overperformed here. It is really good with the Dwarven Hammer, but that, I guess that's really good with Dwarven Hammer, and it's pretty solid with the Doomscar Titan. So that was like the most synergistic stuff we had going for the Dwarven Reinforcements, but I was really not looking forward to running Reinforcements in this deck, because it looked like just a solid Blue-Red Giants deck, but we had actually just as many, if not more, powerful go wide cards than Giants cards, just because Dwarven Hammer is such a crazy card. So if I went back and did that draft again, I went 7-1. I would obviously do it all the same way, but I think now I'm prioritizing Dwarven Hammer even more highly. That card was an absolute game winner there. I think we had it in almost every game that we ended up winning. So yeah, really solid draft. Let's go ahead and see what we get out of these prize packs. Of course, we get the 2,200 gems back out of it. So a really good time there in terms of rewards. We got a Tundra Fumarole. We've got a Immersturm Predator. Been seeing a lot of those. I still have yet to open one of those in draft. Exclusively have opened them in the boosters as rewards. Nico Eris. Very cool Planeswalker. Don't know if that's seeing any standard play right now, but I will have to find out. A Maskwood Nexus, and finally, last but hopefully not least, Eradicator Valkyrie, another mythic rare, but not the greatest one. I don't think this is seeing standard play right now, but 4 mana, 4/3 flying lifelink, already solid for limited. Hexproof from Planeswalker doesn't really matter, but then Boast, sacrifice a creature to have everybody else sacrifice a creature. Could be like a good build around, but not something that I think is super incredible. Anyways, that is going to the end of this premiere draft of Kaldheim. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, you know what to do. Stick around right where you're at if you want to see more of this content. I upload Magic Arena videos daily, mostly drafts limited, sealed, stuff like that, but we also do shake it up a bit with some of the special events, Friday Night Magic stuff every now and then. But if you're just into the drafts, you can stick around for those. There's going to be plenty of those coming up. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for some more Magic Arena.